Happy Friday, Patriots fans. Coming up on today's show, I want to talk about two topics. And yeah, they both have to do with wide receivers. Number one, the latest on Brandon Aiyuk rumors, because is it now turning into more of an unlikely scenario that the Patriots could actually acquire a top 5 wide receiver in Brandon Aiyuk to come to the Patriots this season? On the back half of the show, I want to talk about a possible trade for another receiver that could actually work out really well if Drake May ends up being QB1 here for the Patriots. You're going to want to stick around for that one. All right, let's talk about what Brandon Aiyuk has said, because just to recap here, he recently posted a video of a FaceTime call or phone call or something with Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels. And he pretty much said, they don't want me. I swear they don't want me back. So then we had Albert Breer talk about the latest on Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers, because something has to happen there before Aiyuk can go pretty much anywhere else in the NFL. Here's what Albert had to say about the wide receiver. He said, I think there are two things that give you some optimism that he could still be there in San Francisco. Number one is that they did get the contract for running back Christian McCaffrey done aggressively. I think they had to do McCaffrey before they did Aiyuk, because if you pay Aiyuk $29 million, $30 million, $31 million a year, now the price of McCaffrey goes up. So you had to take care of him first. Because I thought it was a little bit sketchy. I was like, okay, you know Aiyuk has been very verbal about wanting a contract extension or a salary tweak, and then you're like, maybe not. Christian, here's yours. So it's a little bit odd, but it does make sense in the fact that you have two very valuable players on offense. So you get a wide receiver in Aiyuk and a running back in CMC, but you know you can keep CMC at a certain level. But if you pay Aiyuk first, then it just kind of keeps teetering back and forth. But it sounds like, just from the rumors and the tweets and the news that I see, it sounds like the 49ers will at least make a deal work with Brandon Aiyuk. Whether they offer that deal and Aiyuk doesn't want it, that's a separate issue. But it does sound like the 49ers are going to try to make something happen here. And the latest on this is the fact that last month Fowler said that the 49ers were seeking a first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk. If that's the case, should the Patriots act on it? Because a first-round pick, I created a trade position here that I also saw out there that was like maybe Ja'Lynn Polk in a first-rounder for Brandon Aiyuk, maybe 2 first-rounders, 2025, 26. It's a pretty finicky situation here. But now I'm wondering, are the 49ers still seeking that first-round pick? And if not, could the Patriots possibly make a smaller offer to get this wide receiver? Well, here's what Chris Mason had to say on the Aiyuk trade to the Patriots, saying, with the Pats staring down an obvious rebuild and projected to own a top 5 selection again next year, Elliott Wolf would be foolish to part with that pick in a deal for Aiyuk. That's a non-starter. If the 49ers get desperate and decide they'd move Aiyuk for a second rounder, the Patriots should be ready to pounce, but it might not be realistic. If the price drops, San Francisco would likely welcome that trade in New England out of the conference for a high second rounder, but it only becomes realistic if Aiyuk is willing to sign an extension in Foxborough. So as you guys can see, the first domino has to fall, and that's when everything else kind of comes into play here. So for one, I do kind of agree with Mason here in the fact that if it is a future top first rounder, second rounder, maybe it's not worth it when you're already kind of in a rebuild year. If you're missing one missing link, then yeah, Aiyuk would obviously be that missing link, but I get it. You're kind of figuring out QB1 right now. You got a new head coach, you got a new system. Your defense is still top 5. Your offense is still bottom 5, so you got a lot to figure out here. But if it's a second rounder and they're actually very open to trade talks, I don't see why the Patriots wouldn't be on their first list of people to call, because exactly what Mason just said. They don't have to worry about the Patriots, respectfully. It's not in their conference. It's been a while since the Patriots have been back to the Super Bowl, where the 49ers were just recently there in the last year. So it seems like an Aiyuk trade is getting a little unrealistic, because I don't see Aiyuk ever being traded for a second-round pick. So I know that it might be a first-round pick right now, but I do think Aiyuk might just be a little too valuable for the Patriots to be able to go out and get this year. And like Mason said, Aiyuk would also have to be willing to have a contract extension with Foxborough. And honestly, right now, the Patriots don't have that much in terms of accolades to really try and attract a top 5 wide receiver. The only thing they have to offer them is, hey, we're rebuilding. Do you want to be a part of this rebuilding structure? I would, but I'm also not an NFL wide receiver. Whereas Brandon Aiyuk, who's playing the Super Bowl, is probably going to want to go to another contender like a Baltimore Ravens, who had been in the playoffs pretty recently. But with that being said, with all those moving parts, and I know trade conversations are never easy, man. That's why I just talk about it. I don't actually work on it. So if you want the Patriots to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, spam 11 in the comments. You obviously see that Brandon Aiyuk posts his videos on TikTok and Instagram and whatnot, so you know he's on social media. If he ever happens to hop on YouTube one day and finds Patriots Today by Chat Sports, I don't know what the YouTube algorithm will ever do. I want him to look down and say, damn, Patriots fans really want me. Spam 11 in the comments. All right, I'm going to shift it over now to the real conversation of the Patriots' actual wide receiver room they have right now. Who's going to be wide receiver one? Who is going to step up and be that number one target for Brissett, for Drake May, for whoever is in the backfield right now? Because I think it's a pretty fair question when you've got a pretty intense wide receiver battle going on right now heading into training camp. And for some context, here's what we're kind of working with right now. Kendrick Bourne is who I'm looking at to be wide receiver one, but you got to look at KJ Osborn here. He had the most yards out of any of these receivers last season. It just wasn't for the Patriots. It was for the Vikings. Ja'Lynn Polk obviously had a 1,100 receiving yard with Washington last year in his college career, but once again, that's college. We have yet to see what he can do in the NFL. Demario Douglas, I love Pop Man. I think he's truly going to be a breakout character here. So if I had to bring out my 5 receivers to go off this season, and obviously you can go up to 6 here, but I just want to go with 5. Obviously, I'm going to have Bourne, Polk, Baker, Pop, and KJ dressing for the Patriots every single Sunday. This is my core wide receiver room right now. If you want to start mixing in a little booty, I wouldn't be mad at that. I know there are a few players that are still really fighting to make it in the top 5, top 6 wide receiver room, but as of right now, on June 21st ahead of training camp, these are my top 5s. But here are the 3 players I'm looking at to see have a really big breakout year. Surprise, surprise, it's probably the top 3 wide receivers the Patriots have right now on their roster. But you got to look. Ja'Lynn Polk, who was phenomenal at that back shoulder catch, and you know Drake May just excels in that type of position. You got Kendrick Bourne, who needs to be the wide receiver one. He needs to step up. Do I think he's fully there yet? No. Does it scare me? A little bit. Pop Douglas was kind of your only reliable wide receiver last year, but that was obviously a horrible offense that was just trying to piece something together to end out the season on somewhat of a high note here. But to be honest, looking at this receiver room, it's kind of hard to really pick your standout wide receiver one. We don't have a Tyreek Hill. We don't have a Stephon Diggs or Brandon Aiyuk to really be like, obviously, that's your wide receiver one. And PFF recently came out and they ranked him last. They ranked the wide receiver core for the Patriots last. 32 out of 32. And honestly, I don't blame them because they haven't seen this core work together yet. They haven't seen them work with the new quarterback. So I don't blame them for going off of what they know for this ranking. But I know for a fact this ranking will change at the end of next year because I do believe the Patriots have a lot of good prospects in this very intense 12-battle wide receiver room that's going on right now in the 90-man roster. But there's also some more fish in the sea, if you will. There are still other wide receivers out there they can go get in free agency or possibly trade for. And here's a name you guys honestly might not have heard of, but I want to break down why it could actually be somewhat of a good idea. Bleacher Report suggested the Patriots trade for Detroit Lions wide receiver Antoine Green to reunite with the UNC alum Drake May. This was May's receiver in college, and he already had his rookie season in Detroit. But when you got an Amon-Ra St. Brown, when you got a sun god on the Detroit Lions, you're very rarely going to see pretty much anybody else in that wide receiver room getting that spotlight. So who is Antoine Green? He's a 6'2" pass catcher, 106 snaps in his rookie season with the Lions. Not a lot. Not a lot on your offensive rookie possession there. Sits behind Jamison Williams on the Lions depth chart, and he was a 2023 7th-round pick from UNC. He played with Drake May. If you're looking for a good QB wide receiver one connection, you can reunite the two UNC dual threat of the receiver and the quarterback position. And what's even better is that it's not going to cost you really that much. If anything, I give it a 2025 5th-round pick. Why not? The Detroit Lions aren't really ruining anything. They've got their sun god. They've got their wide receiver depth chart. When Antoine Green can come back here and mix in here with these 12 other wide receivers, I'm not saying he's going to come in here and obviously be your new Justin Jefferson, but he already knows Drake May. And no, Drake May is not technically QB1 yet, but I feel like when you draft a quarterback with your third pick in the NFL draft, you're kind of hoping he's going to be the future of your franchise. Why not get him somebody he knows and he works well with? And it doesn't really cost you that much. Well, let me know what you guys think. Who will be the Patriots wide receiver 1? You can pick it out of the 12 they already have on their roster. Tell me about a free agent. Tell me about a trade. Do whatever you guys want in the comment section. Just talk to me about it. That's why we have Patriots Today by Chat Sports. I talk, I show you the facts, you talk, and then we talk about it. And as always, hit that sub button for me.